Alrighty guys, let's crank out 52 through 65. Alright, let's look at number 52. It says to solve and graph. I have negative 7d minus 3 equals 11. So I'm going to rewrite that. Negative 7d minus 3 is greater than or equal to 11. Okay, just like with a regular equation, I have to get this term by itself. So in order to do that, I have to get rid of the minus 3. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Okay, when I add 3 to both sides, I wind up with negative 7d is greater than or equal to 14. Now, I have to get the d by itself. So I have to divide by negative 7 and divide by negative 7. So that leaves me with d on this side. But because I divided across the inequality sign with a negative, I have to flip my sign. So d is less than negative 2. So I'm just going to find a spot on my graph. I'm going to call it negative 2. It's less than or equal to, which means it's a solid dot, and less than is to the left. Okay? So number 53, solve each inequality. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, negative 4 times 3x minus 5 is greater than negative 28. Well, I know that negative 4 is a factor of negative 28. So instead of distributing and then having to divide by negative 4 later, I'm going to go ahead and divide this side by negative 4 and divide this side by negative 4. And when I do that, I wind up with 3x minus 5 because these cancel each other out. And on this side, I wind up with positive 7. But because I divided with a negative across the inequality sign, I have to flip my sign. Okay, now I can just solve for 3x. I'm going to add 5 to this side, add 5 to this side, and I wind up with 3x is less than 15. I'm sorry, not 15, 12. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. I wind up with x is less than 4, which is A. Okay. Let's do number 2. So I have 3 times the quantity, p minus 5, is greater than negative 12. Again, I see that 3 is a factor of negative 12. So I can just divide both sides by 3. So these will cancel. And I'm left with p minus 5 on that side and negative 4 on this side, because negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. And because I divided by a positive, my sign stays the same. Okay? So now I've got to get that by itself. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides, and I'm going to wind up with p is greater than negative 4 plus 5 is 1. Okay, so p is greater than 1. So that's going to be C. All right. Number 3, negative 5x plus 5 is greater than or equal to negative 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. And I wind up with negative 5x is greater than negative 10. I'm going to divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5, which is going to leave me with x on this side. And this will become 2, but I have to flip my sign, so this becomes x is less than 2. Remember, I got to flip the sign because I divided by negative 5. So x is less than 2, less than or equal to 2. X is less than or equal to 2, which is D. Now you guys didn't see a thing that I just did. Sorry about that. So I subtracted 5 from both sides, which left me with 5x is greater than or equal to negative 10. Divided both sides by negative 5, which means I have to flip the sign when I get x is less than 2. All right, David has been saving his money for a new gaming system that's $300. He has saved $45 so far and is saving $15 every week. What's the fewest number of weeks that David must continue to save his money to buy the gaming system? So he needs $300. So he needs $300. Okay? He needs at least $300. Okay? So he's got 45 plus he's adding $15 every week. This has to be greater than or equal to 300. Okay? So $300 is the least amount they can have. So this has to be greater than or equal to 300. So I'm going to subtract my 45 from both sides. And I wind up with 15W is greater than or equal to 255. I'm going to grab my handy dandy calculator. And I'm going to say 255 divided by 15 is 17. So he has to save for at least 17 weeks. That's the fewest number of weeks that he can save for in order to buy his gaming system. If he saves for 18, he's got plenty and will have some left over. But if he only saves for 16, he's not going to have enough. He's going to be $15 short. Okay? Number 55. Tamika already has $55 in her savings account. If she puts $5 per week in her account, how many weeks can she save to have at least $100 in her account? Okay? How many weeks does she need to save to have at least $100 in her account? So she already has $55 plus $5 every week. She wants that to be greater than or equal to $100. Okay? So I'm going to subtract 55 from this side, and I'm going to subtract 55 from this side, and I wind up with 5W is greater than or equal to 45. Divide both sides by 5, and I wind up with W is greater than or equal to 9. So it says you may choose more than one answer. So if she saves for 9 weeks, she's good. 4, 11, or 12, or 20. All of those will have her have at least $100 in her account. Okay. Number 56. Mr. Reciprocal started walking as his New Year's resolution. He calculated that he can walk half a mile in a quarter of an hour. What is his walking rate in miles per hour? Okay. Well, he can walk a half a mile in 1/4 hour. Wants to know how many miles can he walk in 1 hour. Okay, well, I can cross multiply and have 1/2 equals 1/4 m, and then I need to multiply by 4/1 to get these to cancel, and multiply by 4/1, and that gives me m equals 4/2, which is 2. So m would be 2 miles per hour is D. Alrighty, number 57. To make lemonade, The recipe calls for 2/3 of a scoop of Country Time drink mix and a half a gallon of water. How much water in gallons must be added to a cup of drink mix? All right, so I have 2/3 of mix to a half gallon. And it wants to know if I do 1 cup of mix, how many gallons? Okay, so I'm going to cross multiply, and that's going to give me 2/3 G equals 1/2. So I have to multiply by 3/2 to get these to cancel out. If I multiply this side by 3/2, I have to multiply this side by 3/2. And that leaves me with G equals 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 2 is 4. So how many gallons must be added to 1 cup of drink mix? It's going to be 3/4 of a gallon. Alrighty, there's number 57. So let's move on to number 58. Pack and Ship charges its customers $0.75 for every 5/8 of a pound a package weighs. In pounds, show how heavy a package is that ships for $1. All right, let's do this up here. So I have $0.75 for every 5/8 of a pound. So it wants to know if I have $1, how many pounds do I have? Okay, well when I cross multiply, I have 3/4 P equals 5/8. And I have to multiply by the reciprocal to cancel those out. If I multiply by 4/3 on this side, I have to multiply by 4/3 on this side. But I see here I've got the opportunity to cross cancel. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 4 divided by 8, or 8 divided by 4 is 2. So now I can multiply that across. It equals 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so my P equals 5/6. So it's 5/6 of a pound. Ships for $1. All right. Number 59, label each as proportional or non-proportional. Okay. So I'm going to tell you on this one, I'm going to give you $5 gobbler dollars if you can show me what the equation is for each proportional relationship. For the ones that we figure out are proportional, if you can show me the y equals kx formula for each one of these, I will give you $5 gobbler dollars. Only for the ones that are proportional, okay? Sound like a deal? You have till Friday to show that to me. Alright, so, number 1. How did we get from 3 to 24? Well, we multiplied by 8. How did we get from 6 to 48? That one again was multiplied by 8. 9 to 72, that's multiplied by 8. And 12 to 96, that's multiplied by 8. So all of these, all we did was multiply by 8. So that means this is proportional. Alright, let's look at number 2. He worked 10 hours. Hours worked. So we had 10 laborers worked 10 hours, so they all worked 1 hour each. Okay. So we had 5 laborers that worked 20, so they worked 4 hours each. Ugh. And then we had 4 that worked 25 hours, so that's 6 1/4 hours each. Then we had 2 that worked That's not proportional. They're not all working the same. I don't have the same rule for every section. So this one is non-proportional. That one was just ugly. Okay. Minutes used and self-charge. Alright, so if I use 25 minutes, I get charged 20 bucks. Okay. So if I do 25 or 50 to 40, well, that seems reasonable. 25 to 20, 50 to 40. Okay. 75 to 55, I'm not really sure on, but if I go to this next one, which is 100 to 65, I don't think that works. So let's look. So if I do 25 divided by 20, that's 1.25. Okay. 50 divided by 40 is 1.25. 75 divided by, 75 divided by 55, that's 1.36, so that's not the same. And 100 divided by 65, that's 1.53, so that's not the same because my rule's not the same on all of them. So this one is non-proportional. Alright, number 4. It's going 60 miles in 1 hour, so that's 60 miles per hour. So if he's going 60 miles per hour, if he goes for 2 hours at 60 miles per hour, he should get 20. So this was times 60, times 60. 3 times 60 is 180. 4 times 60. Okay, so that one's proportional. Remember, show me your y equals kx formula for 1 and 4. Show it to me. That's $5 gobbler dollars. Easy peasy lemon squeezy for you. Alrighty? Alright, number 60. A recipe calls for 2½ cups of flour to make 6 cupcakes. How much flour is needed to make 18 cupcakes? Okay, I'm going to change 2½ to 2.5. Just because it's easier for me to work with that with my calculator. So if I have 2½ cups of flour to make 6 cupcakes, what it wants to know is how much flour do I need for 18 cupcakes. Okay. So I'm going to do, I can do this one of 2 ways. I can either cross multiply, or I can look here and how did I get from 6 to 18? Well, I got from 6 to 18 by multiplying by 3. So if I do that there, 2.5 times 3 is 7.5. So he would need 7.5 cups of flour. Let's check it by cross multiplying. So if I have 2.5 to 6 equals F over 18. So 2.5 times 18 gives me 45. So this is 45 equals 6F. Divide both sides by 6. And I get 45 divided by 6 equals 7.5. So F equals 7.5. Yep, that's right. Alright, number 61. Save Cash's grocery store. Save Cash grocery store's price for eggs is shown below in the table. What is the constant of proportionality? Alright. So if they have 96 eggs, 96 cents for 6 eggs, that's 0.16 per egg. Let's see if that works for the rest of it. 1.92 divided by 12, that's 0.16 per egg. 384 divided by 24, that again is 0.16. Okay, so what's my constant of proportionality? 0.16. Okay? Alright, number 62. Sarah can type 306 words in 6 minutes. What's the constant of proportionality for her typing rate per minute? So she can type 306 in 6. So what is her per minute rate? So that's going to be 306 divided by 6. And that's going to give me x equals 51. So she can type 51 words per minute. All right, number 63. All right, Joe's mom walks 1.25 kilometers every day. Complete the chart and graph to determine how many days she must walk for a total of 20 kilometers. Okay. So I know if she walks one day, she walks 1.25. Okay. So in 2 days, she will have walked 2.5. And in 4 days, so this is doubled, so I can double that, and that's going to be 5.0 kilometers. And 10, I'm going to multiply 10 times 1.25, and that's going to give me 12.5. Okay, so I can plot these points. Here's my days and my kilometers. So on day 1, she had 1.25, but on day 2, she had 2.5. On day 4, she did 5. On day 1, she did 1.25. On day 2, she did 2.5. On day 10, she did 12.5. All right, so I'm going to grab my ruler. Oh, I marked that on the wrong one. That's supposed to be there. Not there. So I'm going to line these up. Draw my line. Alright, so it wants to know how many days will it take for her to go 20 kilometers? Well, here's my kilometers. It crosses 20 halfway between 14 and 16. So this is at 15 days. And I can check that by multiplying 15 times 1.25 is 18.75. Well, let's see. My line's probably not perfectly straight, which, you know. So the other thing I can do is 20 divided by 1.25. It's 16 days. My line wasn't quite where it needed to be. So I'm going to fix my line. Because these were hard to line up because we don't know exactly where our halves are. So 16 is where it should be. So I'm going to do it with the green pen. That's what it should have been. It's actually 16 days. See, sometimes we just have to check. $16 days. this grid was really hard to do that on because we don't know exactly where 2.5 is, and we don't know exactly where 5 is. So sometimes it just depends on the scale of your graph, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. But that's okay. We figured it out. That's why I checked it. Okay? All right, let's look at number 64. The time Lou spends riding a bus is shown on the table. Which equation represents the time y spent on the bus in x days? So we need to find the constant of proportionality. What's my relationship between x and y? Well, let's check. If I do x divided by y, which is 2 divided by 3, that gives me 0.6. So let's see. This is time, and this is days. All right, so if he spends, if 2 days on the bus, he is, there we go, that's what it is. See, it's late, guys. I'm sorry. It's almost midnight. He has 3 hours in 2 days, so that's 1.5 hours per day. If he does 1.5 hours per day times 5, that gives me my 7.5. This is 1.5, and this is 1.5. So my constant of proportionality is 1.5. Y equals kx, with k being my constant of proportionality, y equals 1.5x, which is that one. Okay, last one for tonight. 65. Tatum graphed the time she spends doing homework compared to the time she spends on social networking. Use her graph to write an equation to determine the amount of time in minutes that she spends on social networking for every minute she spends on homework. Okay. Tatum is a social little butterfly, isn't she? So we have 14 divided by 4 is 3.5. So, and here's 1 at 3.5, so that's about right. Okay, so 3.5 is, so she spends 3.5 minutes on social media. For every 1 minute on homework. I'd kind of be interested to see what her grade is. I bet it's not great. Alright, so this is my y, and this is my x. Okay? So y equals 3.5 times x. So, social networking, she spends 3.5 times as much time on social network as she does on her homework. I'd like to see her grades. Actually, I probably wouldn't like to see her grades, because she's concentrating more on the drama than she is on the learning. Alrighty guys, that's through 65.